I'm joined here by Nalini Malani. Nalini, over the span of 50 years, you have been working and experimenting with many different mediums, from film, cameraless photography, to theater, wall drawing, erasure performance, video plays, etc. In 2017, you started creating animations on iPad. And then one artist that you quote in these iPad animations is Goya, specifically his Disasters of War series. So we're looking at an example of one of those harrowing images from the series, and then your own interpretation or adaptation of it in this still image of your animation. Could you tell us how you first came upon Goya's series, and when and how you decided to engage in a dialogue with it?
Disasters of War is a set of series which I had studied actually through my student days, and but I never had incorporated it into any artwork of my own. I have actually in the animation of In Search of Vanished Blood, where I have an animation which is a quote from Disasters of War. Now, Disasters of War was a series that he made at the age of 62 during the Napoleonic Wars in Spain. And of course, what he's not showing ever is the heroism of war. What he's showing is the absolute abject poverty and destruction, violence, and death. Also, what he's showing is how one set of people overpower another set, and the kind of torture that you see, especially in this image. And the thing is that we haven't stopped, it's continued. And for me, that just as much as women characters through the ages have been very important in my work. So also these moments of extreme violence, of kind of hegemony of one set of people over the other has been ranting in my head. And I think that even till today, there are wars happening on the African continents, on the Asian continents. And this is something that I have a need to address. Goya, these disasters of war, evoke that past. And hopefully it will also trigger something in the mind of the viewer of what is happening today. The other reason is also to quote images from another period, another culture, and as well as text, which I do a lot, is a kind of a subversion. Because if I am sitting in a violent storm, as we are now facing in India as well, I'm not able to communicate if I use what is happening there indigenously, because then I have problems. I have a way of working that out. It's a subterfuge to use these images rather than something that I have sketched on site, let's say. Yeah. So even using text, if you notice, I hardly use Indian texts. Most of the texts are from African or Western thinkers. Again, because it's a subterfuge. It's a language that we have to develop as artists to find ways and means to address these problems. And the problems are huge. Everywhere in the world we see today the rise of dictatorships. And democracy is in a very fragile situation.
Oh, is it also about by being cross-cultural and cross-discursive, universalizing problems as well as ideals? I mean, you can go to early 19th century, you can go to 16th century with Virgil, or you can go into many millennia ago when you were talking about Greek mythology. So it also could be seen as universalizing humanism.
Yes, of course, absolutely, you're right. The other thing is that I feel that artists today, as artists, I mean the wider spectrum of artists, being writers, musicians, visual artists, theater people, we have the lexicon of the world on our computers. You know, no more can you say, oh, you're Asian, but you're not using something Asian, as the West used to say before. And I think this is very important, because too much of the of other parts of the world have been usurped in the West, and I think that has to change. That has to it's for me normal vocabulary that I have disasters of war or Bruegel, because it's equally mine.
So I would like to ask you how the iPad drawing technique that you taught yourself, how is it similar to and different from, shall we say, more analog way of making drawings, which of course you continue to do? With iPad, especially when you see it in animation form, that it's as much about erasure as it is about making marks. And that oscillation between those two very fluid and even frenetic process seems to be what's creating moving image. So would love to hear you describe how that similarity and difference between the iPad and other modes of making drawings.
Well, I started to make these animations on the iPad on a very simple app. I had to express myself on whatever was happening around me very quickly, and therefore they're very short. They're less than a minute. And I didn't know about Instagram. It was my daughter, who's a filmmaker, who said that this is perfect for Instagram. And then it occurred to me that too many times in India, what was happening is we don't have any more art critics writing in the regular papers, and that whole tradition is somehow depleted. And we only have journalists, who ask you things like, oh, you're not in so-and-so auction, and what is the price of your work, etc. So all I always answer is the art is priceless. And you can't even ask me these questions. So I was very angry with this. And I said, just like the wall drawings, I'm going to make these on Instagram for the public, and it's all free. Anybody can repost it or do whatever they like, and there's no copyright on it. That's how it started. And I made it like a notebook series, just as much as an artist would have a series of sketchbooks. This became a kind of public notebooks in the public domain. Now, the whole sensuosity of working on the screen is a whole other experience. It's like going back to childhood a little bit, because I use my fingertips. I tried with the pencil, but the Apple Pencil didn't do much for me. It's too cold and it's too much steel. So that's how the whole thing about staining and removing and all that, erasure, all of it is available on the app. And therefore, I liked also the organic character of the drawing. It had less of a digital feel to it. But then we started to see how it would project, to see how robust the image was. And so it worked pretty well. And then the idea of the animation chamber was an extension of the concertina book.
So you were already talking about, Nalini, that you went to Instagram as a platform because it's a way to disseminate your art very broadly for free. Then I would like to just hear about you. As you know, Instagram or social media in general can be a double-edged sword. That it connects us, but also it divides us. It brings people together. It also separates people. So would like to hear your thoughts on social media in general.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Today we are experiencing and suffering a flurry of alt news and half-truths and so on and so forth on social media. But it's a media, and there are many like that. Earlier on, it was right-wing, newspapers that were doing the same thing. So it's a technology, and every technology has an undertow. If you even go to the great man Einstein, he came up with a fabulous formula, but finally, I'm sure he would have been most, devastated with what that formula finally did. So I think that's the problem with humankind, that there is a part of us, and I think that this needs to be really studied. And I really don't know what the answer would be. I can only put forth questions. That why is it that there is so much greed in the world that you want to gobble up the whole planet, so finally nothing is left of it. You know, there are so many things happening around us. Nobody's thinking into the future. What would be the consequences? And I think some of that is what I would also like to put in the public domain.
You were referring to the transition from the Instagram, where 1 minute or even less animations are published weekly or so, to the animation chambers that you began in 2019, which is a multiple projections of these short videos that have been edited together, and then they overlap so that it becomes like a concertina book in a physical space. So is it safe to say that while you believe in this, the broader public dissemination of your art for free in democratic way is an expression of a belief in that medium, but also you still believe that art is something that has to be experienced physically, be immersed and be confronted?
Yes, I do believe that. The thing about the Instagram, it's like, you know, when you look at a miniature painting, you have it, if you can manage it, you can hold it in your hand like a book. And the Instagram images are like that. Whereas when you walk, and then you're seeing it by yourself, there's a privacy between the image and the viewer. Whereas when I noticed, especially in Bombay, when I was showing at the Goethe Institute, I had these gaggle of girls come in, and then they were quiet, and then they would whisper to each other, and there was a whole way of, you know, responding to that accordion book, you know, and then of course selfies were taken, all of that. So there was a whole other collective feeling, group feeling that which I thought was very important.
Right. Well, you know, the reminder of how the social aspect or social character of human beings is so critical, especially in the COVID age, is a really important reminder, I think.
Yes.
So, yeah. So with that, thank you very much, Nalini, again.
Thank you very much, Doryun. It's been very, very fascinating talking to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Such a pleasure.